Day everyone, this is Chris back again, the Ancient Scholar. We'll go ahead and pick up where we left off. We just talked about how we did some substitution, some ethyl group substitutions to get to the barbitol molecule. And then what I did is I substituted on the barbitol molecule, I substituted one of these ethyl groups. Because the barbitol molecule had two ethyl groups, and I've got an ethyl group here, and then one was we substituted with a aromatic ring, and that gave us the substance phenobarbitol, which is the prototypical long-acting barbiturate. It's a very long duration of action, somewhere about 12 hours, really long plasma half-life of up to 100 hours in some cases. The pharmacokinetics of this substance are very interesting as well, that doesn't have a whole lot of protein binding. It is a weak acid. I believe it has a pKa of about 7.2 or thereabouts. So if you can administer sodium bicarbonate and alkalize the urine, you can enhance the elimination of phenobarbitol through urinary alkalization, just like something like aspirin. You could do something similar to that through the ion trapping. Charge selective membrane ion trapping mechanisms that I've described in other videos. The other thing is, because it has this really long half-life, a lot of this up to about I want to say about 30% or so gets eliminated unchanged in the urine because it takes so long to metabolize this. It does get metabolized by, I think, primarily by phase 1 reactions, by cytochrome P450 enzymes, microsomal enzymes. So it just takes them a while. And people that take chronic doses of phenobarbitol can actually cause increased enzyme activity. So this can actually enhance the activity of the enzymes that metabolize it. So you can actually get increased metabolism in people that have take this chronically. But unfortunately, what we find is that even though you get enhanced enzyme activity, you're still very prone to overdosing, and it's not like people become really heavily resilient to the negative side effects of phenobarbitol, even though they may have enhanced enzyme activity due to that. Phenobarbitol is actually one of the medications that can really enhance certain enzymes. So there we go. Very long acting. We talked about some of its indications. Obviously, the big problem with an overdose of any of the barbiturates, the primary problem is going to be loss of airway protection due to central nervous system depression, but you can also have direct effects on the muscles, particularly the heart, and you can have hemodynamic consequences, decreased cardiac output, which leads to low blood pressure, hypoperfusion. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I've got this phenobarbitol molecule here, and whenever you add carbon hydrogen chains like ethyl groups, aromatic rings, whenever you have that, these guys, whenever you see lots of carbon and hydrogen, you're typically looking at something that is going to be more lipid soluble. It's going to be less polar. So you have a fair amount of area here that is not as polar. It's fairly lipophilic. Obviously, I do have the nitrogens here, and their electronegativity is certainly going to make at least this area of the molecule, perhaps a bit more polar. Clearly, it's going to be that way because I have a nitrogen and a hydrogen here, and whenever you have a hydrogen that's covalently bound to nitrogen, oxygen, something that's fairly electronegative, you're going to be more prone to having an area of a molecule that can engage in hydrogen bonding. So I would expect, and I actually haven't done all my homework yet, but I would suspect that this area of the molecule is a bit more polar, certainly much more polar here than over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify the phenobarbitol molecule. I'm going to remove the aromatic ring here, and I'm going to add this group here. So what's going to happen is I have a carbon hydrogen here. I have a methyl group, a CH3 here, and then I have two ethyl groups, CH2s, or an ethyl group rather, CH2, a CH2, and then I'm going to cap this with a methyl group, a CH3 here. So what is going on here is I have a very long carbon-hydrogen chain. And whenever you have long carbon-hydrogen chains and you have it capped with methyl groups, you have a very non-polar area. This is very lipophilic here. So I'm going to add this to the part of the molecule that's already very lipophilic. Okay, and now what I've done is replacing the aromatic ring with this structure here. I have now created a molecule of sodium thiopental. Sodium thiopental, or pentothal, is on the very opposite end of the spectrum of the way that we describe barbiturates. And that is that phenobarbitol is a long-acting, sodium thiopental or pentothal is a very short-acting, it's an ultra short-acting barbiturate. So it takes, you can give this intravenously and it will start working within minutes, but and that's due to the fact that this really long carbon-hydrogen chain here is much more lipophilic. This can penetrate into lipid membranes very quickly. It can get into the central nervous system, it can cause its effects, and then it's metabolized rather quickly, or at least the active parts of it can be metabolized very quickly. It can move out of the central nervous system rather quickly as well. So sodium thiopental is used more for its short-term effects. This was at one time a very common medications that we administer when getting somebody ready for surgery, because you could cause pretty quick central nervous system depression, and you could get them to a place in their anesthesia where you could insert an endotracheal tube and get them ready for the surgery. We don't see sodium thiopental used as much anymore because of its negative hemodynamic consequences, and I think there, some other, vomiting and that, which is not uncommon with some of the other anesthesia agents. But there are other agents out there that we can look at using that may not impact the blood pressure. The hemodynamics can really get impacted by pentothal or sodium thiopental. But there you have it. I'm not going to talk about all the other types of barbiturates because there really are several types, and they're all just variations on the on the barbitol molecule, where you have that 5 carbon there, and you have these two chains that can come off of it, and you're just going to substitute for the most part different, an aromatic ring. If it's just 2 ethyl groups for barbitol, and it really comes down to substitution. You can put like you can have alkenes, alkene groups you can add here, etc., to make different molecules that have varying levels of lipophilicity. And you have the whole gambit, all the way from ultra short acting like sodium thiopental to the long-acting guys like phenobarbitol. Alrighty guys, I think I am going to go ahead and cut it off here, and we'll start talking about the benzodiazepines in the next video.